With what? Oh.
I actually heard that.
Septic system with more exit bedrooms. And she's supposed to, but if you don't have a septic system, that's not enough. Right.
Ready when you are.
We got everybody? Everybody's good? Good evening, everyone. Welcome to our February 26th Town Council meeting. Before we begin, I just need to go through the evacuation procedures. In the event of an emergency, there are two doors on your left, another one at the front of council chambers. We would exit the building, cross Middle Road, and await further instruction at the school administration building. And if we could all stand for a pledge of allegiance and a moment of silence for our men and women serving in harm's way. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic that stands one nation, God, indivisible, with liberty.
Thank you all. Okay, just a little bit, some more housekeeping. We are live streaming tonight. So those of you that are participating remotely, if you're on Zoom, there's a icon to raise your hand. If you're calling in on your phone, *9 will indicate you have a question. *6 will allow you to mute and unmute your phone. If you're participating remotely or in person tonight, and if you come up to speak, please state your name and address for the town clerk. And with that, I'll begin with our roll call.
Mr. Katzman,
Here.
Mr. Gleason,
Here.
Mr. Hamilton,
Here.
Mr. Levesque,
Here.
Dr. Ryan,
Here.
Mr. Aguirre.
Here. Okay. President's executive summary. Before our regular meeting tonight, there was a executive session. During that session, one vote was taken, and it was 5-1 was the vote. And at this point, I would like to just allow Mr. Levesque to say a few words.
No reason to be frightened, people. So at the last meeting, I addressed an issue of protocols and everything, and one of the ones I addressed is rather than have people come and stand behind people in the podium, they have a way of signaling that they want to speak. I went out through Amazon, spent the whole like $15.47, and there are some American flags right above the where you hang your coat. And if you would like to, just as you decide you want to speak, come up, grab a flag, and then you can wave it. And that would have the dual purpose of being patriotic and making sure that the council president doesn't miss you. Okay, it is totally voluntary at this time. No one will be punished. I've spoken to the chief of police, and no one will be harmed in the proceedings under the American flag process. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Levesque. I misunderstood. Um, I should have known. Next item is our consent agenda.
Mr.
Move to
President,
approve as presented.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0. Next, we'll be sitting as the Board of License Commissioners. First item is a peddler license, new mobile food establishment, Clover Hospitality LLC, DBA Elaine's Mobile, 343 Kingston Road, West Kingston.
Move to approve.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Move to
6-0.
adjourn as the Board of License Commissioners.
Seconded.
I saw your thunder there, Keith.
All those in, motions made in second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0. Next, we have minutes. We're just going to do minutes from our January 16th and February 12th
Regular meetings.
regular meetings.
Motion to approve the meetings for the regular open session for the 16th and the 12th.
Seconded.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
And motion to, we'll delay the executive until next meeting. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes 6-0 for both. We're going to move on to our town administrators report. Mr. Rayner.
Good evening, Mr. President, Town Council, ladies and gentlemen. At a previous town council meeting, there were where legislative priorities were discussed late last year. There was a conversation regarding security in town hall. We were asked to look into physical security measures as well as appropriate policies for access to town hall offices. In a recent unfortunate incident, an employee had to activate the panic alarm due to an unwelcome intrusion into that person's office. The situation was resolved, but it underscored the need to create a safer and more secure work environment while maintaining a culture of open access and friendly service. I've met with the police chief and select department heads, and I hope to address our security and safety concerns with a mix of policy implementation and physical security measures in the coming weeks, with the addition of probably a small capital outlay to be proposed in the next budget. With respect to the dog park, at their latest board meeting, the Van Buren Charitable Foundation approved a change in the scope for a grant to make improvements at the Portsmouth Dog Park. The new scope prioritizes the trail park expansion and removes lighting and the larger parking lot. The DPW director will discuss this in greater detail on an agenda item to be heard later this evening. I'd like to report that Colonel Peters and I were invited to attend a Shoreline Access Bill Forum / training session last week. The meeting was held by CRMC for the purpose of discussing the newly passed Shoreline Access Bill and its implications for CRMC's program, as well as a general conversation on signage needs and solutions moving forward. I've asked the sponsors of the meeting to hold a similar forum with our Harbor Commission. With respect to the Turnpike Avenue Playground, DPW has been assisting the Four Hearts Organization and East Coast Construction in the completion of the Turnpike Playground renovation. Recently, construction fencing has been installed. Silt socks have been installed for soil erosion. A utility light pole has been relocated. The old playground equipment and mulch have been removed. A parking area has been excavated and gravel has been graded. We've excavated a 100 by 110 foot, 100 by 110 foot playground area, and concrete curbing for the play area has been installed. Equipment is expected to be delivered in the first week of March, and installation of the equipment is expected to take place over 4 weeks, starting the second week of March. With respect to the next fiscal year's budget, we've completed our second round of budget meetings with departments. Civic support requests will be discussed tonight. The school committee will conduct their second of 3 budget reviews tomorrow night, and staff budget reviews and challenging of the budget proposals will be held in mid-March. And I intend to finish the budget proposal on March 26th and submit the budget proposal to the council on March 29th. And then lastly, sadly, Alexander Coate passed away on January 24th at the age of 83. Mr. Coate retired from the Portsmouth Fire Department on July 1st, 1990, after serving 20 years as a Portsmouth firefighter. He is survived by his wife, his daughter, and his sister. Our thoughts and prayers go with their family.
Mr. President, can I-
That concludes my report.
Thank you, Mr. Rayner.
Can I just ask a quick question?
Sure.
And if this is out of order, please let me know. Regarding number one in the town hall security measures, we are going into an election year. There is reason, I think, to be a little apprehensive about the security of the folks working the elections. And I guess I just wanted to ask that that be kept in mind as you're doing a budget. Obviously, this fiscal year, there was nothing really that much going on with respect to elections. This coming one will be heavy.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
Okay. Moving on to resignations and appointments. First item is resignation on the Solid Waste Recycling Committee. First one is it Ivor Sablinski?
Mr. President, I move to accept the resignation of Mr. Slipicki with regret.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0. Next, it's the Tax Assessment Board for Ms. Ellen Toner.
Move to accept the resignation with regret.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0. And last one is the Tree Commission for Murray Norcross Jr.
Motion to accept the resignation of Mr. Norcross with regret.
Seconded.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0. And now we have appointments. It's a reappointment to the Economic Development Committee for Mr. Theodore Pites.
Mr. President, I move we reappoint Mr. Pites to the Economic Development.
Seconded.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0. Okay, moving on. Next item is old business, monthly finance report. Ms. Marsden?
Good evening, Mr. President and Honorable Council. As of the end of January, the town was 7 months or 58.3% of fiscal year 2024. Year-to-date general fund revenues were at 56.8% of the total budget. Primary sources were town clerk receipts, interest income, ambulance service payments, and state aid. Year-to-date general fund expenditures were at 56.8% of the total budget. Primary drivers were semi-annually and quarterly civic support payments and snow removal material. For reference, revenues and expenditures are comparable to this time last fiscal year, respectively, both at 56%. Third quarter tax payments are due March 1st, and we continue to record favorable interest income. Thank you.
Move to receive and place on file.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0. Okay, moving on to new business. First item is town council review and approval of the civic support requests. Mr. Rayner.
Sure. Is there a way you can bring that up on the screen? While she's bringing that up, I'll get it started. So we forwarded to you last week the civic support request that we received for fiscal year 25. At first glance, it would appear that the total amount requested for fiscal year 25 is decreased over the amount approved last year in fiscal year 24. However, it's important to note that support for the Prudence Island Volunteer Fire Department has been moved out of civic support and will now be a standalone section under the Portsmouth Fire Department for fiscal year 25. So when you compare apples to apples, year over year, the requested civic support, if we account for the Prudence Volunteer Fire Department, the requests were 13.5% over last year, or about $126,000. What I propose is that organizations requesting increases were capped at 2%. I proposed the use of the opioid settlement monies to fund the Portsmouth Prevention Coalition as we did last year. The Clean Ocean Access Organization is dissolved and no longer exists. You'll note that there is $1,000 for the Portsmouth Garden Club. That has historically been funded through the DPW tree maintenance account. So there's no increase in what they're asking for. I'm just, in the interest of transparency, openness, I think that's more appropriately recorded in civic support. There are 4 organizations requesting funding in fiscal year 25 who are not funded in fiscal year 24. The first is the Aquidneck Island Planning Commission. You'll note that I propose 0 funding. The council previously voted to stop providing monetary support to the organization. The Wildlife Rehabilitators and the St. John's Lodge Food Bank both made requests this year, and I propose half of what they requested. And the Four Hearts Foundation, which I just talked about. I proposed 0% or 0 funding in response to their request. They requested $28,000. However, DPW has been supporting the refurbishment project with equipment, material, oversight, and manpower. The council was briefed at the start of the project that this would be done at no cost to the town. So I felt it was responsible to make the recommendation that I do. I think that pretty much sums it up, Mr. President. So I would say that when we take into account what I proposed compared to what was requested, and we include back in just to account for it because we did it last year, the Prudence Island Volunteer Fire Department, civic support, and the Prudence Volunteer Fire Department are at 2% over last year.
Thank you, Mr. Rayner. And just, I know it says for approval, but this would be tentative approval. As you're continuing to craft the budget.
Correct. And that's probably better worded, request tentative approval, because this is obviously a major outlay of funds and it impacts the rest of the budget, which I need to finish and submit to you prior to you provisionally approving the budget. So it's a little bit, what comes first, the chicken or the egg, but I need a base to start from.
Okay.
Mr. President, can I just ask a quick question?
Sure.
Where is the senior center in its progress towards having a new structure? I see they have asked for a certain amount. They actually have a lot of information there with respect to it, but I'm wondering if they actually open a facility back up, will they need any additional help or assistance?
Right now, groundbreaking is scheduled for late spring of this year. The plan is that the current spot where the building where the senior center is operating from, that will stay in operation throughout the entire building of the new facility, and they will be the last to move over. So there won't be any interruption in their operation. So definitely during the next fiscal year, probably next 2 fiscal years, they'll probably be in that building.
Okay, thank you.
Question? Any further? Yeah, I just want to see if any councilors had any other questions or comments. And I'll open up the floor.
Mr. President, are we
Yes.
going to deal with them each individual line item? What's your plan?
Well, I mean, my intent here is obviously we'll listen to some questions, some comments. I would agree with the tentative approval for what's been presented by the administrator. I think we took this approach last year where we kind of agreed that we weren't going to go much above the 2%, or we were going to try to hold the 2%, and we could move money around.
Sure.
But not go over the 2%, because again, I think as every year when Mr. Rayner starts to do the budget, we start to run into some crunches. I think this is going to be another challenging budget time. And so it'd be nice if we could do more, but at some point we have to try to live within our ability to fund things.
Sure.
And, you know, sometimes we have to make some hard decisions. As you can see from what was presented by Mr. Rayner, he's already taken a first stab at making some hard decisions. So again, I'm open to some comment and feedback tonight, but I would just caution that if we add to this, or if we add to it or subtract to it, that's one thing. If we want to move stuff around, we have that ability, but I would just caution against adding to it, because I think that's going to put some further constraints on Mr. Rayner's part as he crafts the budget. But again, it's up to the council.
Just to finish where
Sure.
I was headed, I agree, AIPC, no, Four Hearts, no, I understand the logic there. I would just like to be able to support St. John's for the mission that they're doing, for, similar to what Martin Luther King does, their ability to provide food stock for people that need it here in town. I get it. They've asked for 5,000. We're asking to give them 2,500, but I would like to see them get something along the lines of what MLK is getting. Just my own personal viewpoint. I think it's a worthy cause. If we can do that, Simone.
Thank you, Mr. Gleason.
And this may address your concern, Mr. Gleason, and I don't disagree with you. I've had some dealings with St. John's, and they have provided a very needful service. What I'm going to suggest, however, is that those who have asked for level funding, okay, well, actually, that we approve this as it's presented by the administrator, they will be notified. Those who have asked for level funding, I assume, will go their merry way. Those who we have not provided will probably ask for an opportunity to address us, so that we can go ahead today and say there is some reluctance. You're being zeroed out, okay? And then if they want to, they can come back to the council during budget time and say, this is the reason we think we merit consideration, as opposed to us talking about right now, when I think Mr. Johnson is the only one that's here for his organization. Oh, there are others?
Yeah, there might be some.
Okay. I still think that would be a better way to do it, to just tentatively approve this, and then all the people who have a desire to change this would contact us, put it on the agenda, and give us reasons for them to have more funds.
Thank
Mr.
you,
President,
Yeah.
I would like to piggyback on Mr. Gleason's discussion, and I love animals and rehabbing the wildlife, but I'd rather put $3,600 towards the St. John's Food Bank and $1,000 to the wildlife, keeping all the numbers, the main numbers the same, but decreasing wildlife to $1,000 and St. John's Food Bank to $3,600. Would be a motion on my part.
Okay, Mr. Hamilton, would you explain that to me again?
So on the bottom where you got the wildlife rehabs at $2,100 and St. John's Food Bank at $2,500, I would make wildlife rehabs at $1,000 and St. John's Food Bank $3,600.
And you claim you love dogs.
I do love dogs.
All right.
Have one at home.
You're the one making the motion.
Okay, so just,
I don't count dogs as wildlife. Coyotes, however.
all right, so for starters,
The- Bottom line stays the same, it's just moving those two numbers.
okay. You want to, we have a motion and a second. We can take action on it now, or we can listen, because there might be a few folks that want to make a pitch. But I have no problem if we want to act on this motion first.
Maybe we ought to act on this motion now, because they may start piling up and then we'll get lost in the event.
All right.
That never happens, Mike.
All right, so we have the motion and a second to reallocate $1,000 to
$1,100.
1,100.
Yeah.
See, that's why we're doing this. $1,100 to the St. John's Food Bank and increase, I'm sorry, $1,100 to the wildlife rehabilitation.
Remove.
Yeah,
To the food bank.
Okay.
like they said. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
No, let me have a conversation on it.
No, please don't.
Okay,
Discussion.
because I really don't think it's a good idea to do this piecemeal. And I appreciate that you are doing a zero sum, and so it really doesn't impact the bottom line, and I think that's a very legitimate. But Actually, I was thinking of wildlife, how many people have told me that they have come across a wounded a hawk or something like that and don't know what to do. And where do they go with it and everything like that, you know? And so there are competing values, obviously, in every single one of these. Right? So I would like, if, again, my previous suggestion, I'm not gonna vote any one of these yay or nay at this point. I want to do tentative approval for all of them. And then the folks who are concerned about that can come back in at another time where we know that there are 10 who are concerned and the money they're looking for is this amount, and we would have a broad spectrum to look at it. So I am voting against, even though I love animals.
I love animals too. Love people more.
Okay. So, do you want to?
My motion stands. I would like to
Yeah.
move the $1,100.
And it doesn't change Council Levesque's point that people who feel strongly about their organization are always welcome to come back.
Yep.
The budget is not being finalized.
It is a
It's
tentative.
tentative approval,
It's a
but
tentative approval.
it gives us a little refinement, and that's okay. That's why we're here.
So let's vote on this and move
Yep.
on.
So we have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Motion passes 5-1. Mr. Levesque was opposed. So now I will open it up. Mr. Johnson?
Thank you, Mr. President. Councilor Levesque, I think your point that this is merely the first bite of the apple for civic support requests is well taken.
Mr. Johnson, sorry.
Mr. Johnson, Steve Johnson, 44 Wapping Road. Thank you for the reminder, Jen. Representing, I am the chair of the Aquidneck Island Planning Commission Board of Directors. Councilor Levesque, I think your point about this is the first step in the budget process. I am not here tonight to ask for anything other than to take this timely opportunity to note that the Aquidneck Island Planning Commission is very pleased to see in this week's Portsmouth Times, the article on the front page about Ride Island. I always struggle with that. Ride Island is a group that the Planning Commission has worked with over the last year. I have personally attended most of the meetings with Barry Freeman's group on the planning for bike paths in Portsmouth, in Middletown, and Newport. It is an activity that the Planning Commission very much supports. And in corresponding with the author, who happens to be a Portsmouth resident of this otherwise excellent article that was published in Echo RI and reprinted in the Portsmouth Times, she was under the assumption that because we no longer have an executive director, that we are defunct. And she was pleased to see that the other things that Echo RI is concerned with, such as conservation and land management, climate resiliency, things that we as a board continue to work without staff, that AIPC continues to be involved with the things that Echo RI is interested in. So for the record, AIPC is still here and we are operating on a very, very limited budget. And we will, and I thank you for the opportunity, the timely opportunity, since this just came out, to say what I just said. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson.
Would anyone else, are there any other, come on up?
I actually just want to, my name is Heather Holstroud. I'm the Executive Director of the Martin Luther King Community Center in Newport. And I just want to take this opportunity. I really love the conversation that was just had about how important it is to feed people. And the St. John's Food Bank is doing a phenomenal job. We have been out there and offered our support to them to collaborate. So I just want you all to know that. And I appreciate the funding that you provide to the MLK Center. I want you also to understand that we do a lot more than hunger relief programming. And one of the things I'm proudest of that we're doing right now, as we sit in this room, is we are an overnight warming center to all of Newport County. And so far this winter, we've had 75 unduplicated people who spend the night sleeping at the center so that they don't freeze. And there are some Portsmouth residents participating in that program. So just when you think about the MLK Center, I don't want you to just think about hunger relief, which is a very big piece of what we do, but we do a lot more than that. And thank you for your support.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Duplicated people clones? Couldn't help myself. Couldn't help me.
It's not important.
It was a joke.
We're engaged in semantics here. Don't mind us.
Good evening. My name is Dr. William Morissette. I'm the Executive Director of the Wildlife Rehabilitators Association of Rhode Island. And I appreciate the opportunity to speak, and I was interested in the discussion that occurred. And I just wanted to share a little bit about what the organization does that many here may not be aware of. First of all, we are open 365 days a year, and we have night hours as well on call staff. And we are the only organization in Rhode Island that is licensed by both the U.S. Fish and Wildlife as well as the Department of Environmental Management to handle all species of animals in Rhode Island wildlife other than marine mammals and sea turtles. When animal control officers come across wildlife that is injured or orphaned, they have to bring it to our facility because, again, we are the only ones who are licensed. What also is not known about our facility, and we're talking about people versus animals, is that we have, when the animals are brought to us, a medical record system exactly like you would find in a regular hospital, so that we track diseases that are happening with the animals, different types of infectious types of things that are occurring. And all that information is downloaded to the Department of Environmental Management at the end of the year, so that you know within your town if there's something that is happening that could be a threat to human beings. Additionally, we handle rabies animals as well. So if you have someone in your town that is in contact with an animal that potentially could have rabies, we're the facility that is going to be working with the Department of Environmental Management to evaluate whether that animal is in fact infected with rabies so that the person could be properly treated. So again, I would just ask you, I understand the tough decisions that you have to make. Understand that our organization has to make tough decisions this year as well. We ended last year negative $37,000. We're facing $136,000 deficit. I'm the new executive director and I have to make difficult choices. Up to this point, we've been able to take every animal that has been brought to us, but just like you, I'm going to have to make some determinations relative to how to handle all 39 cities and towns as well as these animals. So again, I would just share that information with you, and I'm happy to answer any other questions that the council may have. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. So I basically I was contacted at one point by a person, and I guess I'm going to ask, how does someone contact you? Does a local animal control office okay, because I think they indicated they didn't have an idea how to deal with a wounded bird of prey of one kind or another. I don't know they really knew what type it was, but where is your facility, for instance?
It is in Saunderstown. However, we have home rehabbers throughout the state. We have 75 volunteers and we have a full transport network. So right now, if you had an injured animal and you called us, we have a GroupMe app. An alert would go out and we would send a transport person out that would safely get the animal and bring it to our facility. And that's both day and night, and that's 365 days a year. So your animal control last year only brought us 2 animals. The rest were either brought in by your residents or they were contacting us and we sent our transport network out here. But our budget is close to $1 million and I cover almost 500,000 of that through volunteers, feed donations that are coming in, and we have active 75 volunteers that are working day and night. So we're doing everything that we can to meet our end. We also are getting money from foundations. The state of Rhode Island has us in the budget for $100,000, which covers our veterinary, the vet that we have. But the remainder comes from private dollars. But again, we were hit hard last year because of inflation and private donors having more difficulty. And so that's why I've been doing the rounds to the cities and towns, just trying to help educate on exactly what we do and what the consequence is to the towns if we're not able to provide this service.
Thank you.
Glenn, do you-
I wanted to know the numbers, but you gave us the numbers. Thank you.
Yeah,
Just want to know what what you've received in terms of state funding, but you told us that.
yeah, that was 100,000, yes.
Right.
I just have a question. So if for private donations, you have website,
Yes,
you could just go on as well?
yep, we have a website for private donations.
Is there any limit on like any type of wild animal, bird, rabbit? Like, do you draw the line somewhere?
You know, it's funny we don't, because if somebody, on any given day, we'll have somebody come in and they might have a mouse that they are concerned about. And, you know, we're not going to judge what you feel.
No,
So we take them all. We
no,
take them all.
I appreciate that. And I know some folks that, have come across injured animals and I know that they've reached out to but never did I think to contact the rehabilitators. So,
And we just celebrated our 30th year. So, we've been servicing the state for 30 years.
wow. So, well,
So
thank you for
There
that.
used to be a state veterinarian who was out of DEM, I think, for animals. Is that still exists? I'm
Yeah,
going
so
back
we
quite a
are,
while.
Scott Marshall is the state vet at this point, and he works closely with us, yes.
Okay. And $100,000, so nothing out of all of the licensing fees they get for hunters and everything like that, just $100 grand?
Yeah, and we had a volunteer vet up until 2022. And then that volunteer vet retired in DEM at that point, because we said we can't continue without having a paid vet. And so the legislature approved us to receive the $100,000, which happened in 2023. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Anyone else? Okay.
A motion to tentatively approve the civic support as amended.
Seconded.
All those in favor? Oh,
Aye.
As amended.
as
Yes.
amended. Yeah.
Oh,
Yes. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0. Okay, thank you all. Okay, we're gonna move on to new business number 2. It's request approval to award the dog park expansion project. I can't pronounce this contractor's name. Who is it, Mr. Woodhead?
Fusile,
Soleil
Brothers.
Okay.
You know, supposed to be
I thought I was gonna mess that one up too.
That should be able to help.
I needed to phone a friend.
Council President, members of the council, what you have before you today is a request to award, Fusile Brothers, Inc. for the expansion of the dog park with add alternate number 1 for the added parking. There were 4 proposals. Fusile Brothers, Inc. was $183,150. East Coast Construction Landscaping was $194,250. And Central Nurseries was $294. And Yard Works was $329,800. Thanks to the grant from the Van Buren Charitable Foundation, we have $170,500 towards the project, with the adjusted allocations of $162,250 for the park expansion and $8,250 for the parking. The dog park committee is also going to contribute to the park expansion of $4,400 and to make up the shortfall. And then the town's portion will be the $8,250 for the parking expansion. We'd like to request the town council award the project to Fusile Brothers, Inc. for a total of $183,150. This decision was maybe collaborative with the dog park and Narragansett improvement in the town.
Mr. Woodhead, it says 181,000.
That was a misprint on my original note, my original letter, at the very bottom,
Thank
but
you.
it's 183.
Oh, I see up at the top says 180. Yep.
Sorry about
Sorry.
that.
A motion,
Thing open, you are the way, though.
But the dog park, yes,
You don't agree?
I agree in principle. I do have I tend to give a little bit of an, it's again, I don't know if it's necessarily against state law, but it's against the spirit of the things. I would rather give it to a local contractor that is in with 10%, but
Okay.
it's not. So yes, I agree with the expansion. What the dog park is a wonderful asset to the town of Portsmouth.
motion to approve the award of the bid to Dor Soleil Brothers, Inc. in the amount of $183,150.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Oh, okay. Wait a minute.
That's all the flag.
Oh, okay.
This isn't working out for Jack.
You know, all best laid plans of meat and men. And
Oh, I just happen to be near it, so
There you go.
convenient for me. Jane Regan, 701 Fairway Drive, Middletown, but I also happen to be the chair of the dog park. And I just wanted to get up to say on behalf of the dog park committee, how much we appreciate. I mean, this has been a long slog to try and get a price that we could actually afford. Van Buren has been incredible. And yes, we did eliminate the lighting, and we did eliminate the huge parking, whereas we will have more parking than presently, but just not as much as was going to. We also kind of put aside the agility, but those are things that we will work for in the future. So I'm not asking you for any money today. We actually have an account that has extra money in it right now. So we feel very fortunate. And I know that, but I think it's Beausoleil. I'm going to guess it's kind of French. But interestingly, I came to the bid openings and they were quite different, which was scary. But one young man came up to us at the end of the bids. He didn't come up at the beginning, and he said, "Hi, I just wanted to remind you." And it turns out to be the son of the owner of this. He was in the class at URI when they did free work with us to do the landscape architecture school at URI came over with a whole class of students, and they did all these designs. And this young man is graduating in June or May this year, and his dad, because he actually saw the bid on his desk and said, I was part of that. So that was why they bid for it. So yes, we understand that it isn't a local business, and we totally agree with that, by the way. But we weren't given a choice. And as it happened, we do have a connection with that young man. So we thought that was pretty good. But we just want to say thank you so much for your support. The dogs love it. People love it. If we could just grow grass where there's mud, that would be great. But other than that, I would also like to thank a couple of other people, Rich Rayner, who really stuck with us the whole way through. This was fairly tough. Brian, who has been so helpful to us, the public library, the police station that allows us to meet there for our committee meetings. It's been a truly wonderful experience, and you will be receiving invitations for our groundbreaking and opening when it's done. So we hope you will all come. Thank you very much. Put these back.
I'll go anywhere for treats.
Dog treats.
Oh, yeah, love them. They go.
So we have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0. Thank you. Okay. Moving on to new business number 3. It's approval of funds to be used for enhancements to town hall basement weatherproofing.
Council President, members of the council, the town is actively working on improving the resiliency of the town hall basement against adverse weather conditions. The facility manager, David Hall, he's obtained a proposal from our on-call contractor for necessary work on the eastern and northern perimeters of the town hall, including shrubbery removal and replacement. We've reached out to the tree commission and we also reached out to the garden club for some suggestions about the trees that we're gonna remove out there. There was a couple of things that came back from the tree commission and the garden club that we're gonna work on, so the proposal's gonna get changed a little bit. The tree commission didn't like the boxwoods because they have blights, so they want to remove the boxwoods and to replace them with dwarf Japanese hollies, and then the garden club wants winterberry to get some more color in the front of the building. So that's going to get a little bit of change. So we're just looking for, the funding for this project is going to come from the special fund 270 designated for technology upgrades and document preservation. So I would just like to would like to request the council to approve the town hall basement weatherproofing to East Coast Construction.
So moved.
Second.
Question.
Yes.
Just one question. Is there any provisions for a sump pump in the basement here?
Not in the basement, no. There's floor drains that go into the basement. That's where they're trying to tie into, get all the drains out there. So they're trying to get all the gutters and everything outside. They're probably gonna, if they have to, they're trying to get it all gravity fed. If they can't get it gravity fed, then a sump pump will be installed outside to pump everything into the basin outside.
Right, that's your alternate bid, but
Yeah,
there's
that's the
nothing there now.
There's nothing
And
there now.
This new addition isn't affected, it's just the field stone.
This is
from the
all on,
original?
yeah, this is all on slab and all that is all stone foundation, correct?
I admire anybody who's actually going down there. I went down there once, 40 years ago. Did not want to go back.
It's not for tall people. Yeah.
So we have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Whitted. Okay, next, it's new business number 4. It's a request approval to hire a civilian harbor master. Mr. Rayner?
Yeah, good evening again. An initiative to create a civilian harbor master position within the police department has been discussed with and supported by you and the Harbor Commission previously. I'm finalizing the town administrator's proposed budget for FY 25, which, no surprise, will include a civilian harbor master. The proposal will be for a part-time hire who will work 28 hours a week, and this has already been vetted through the police department and the Harbor Commission. Unfortunately, our fiscal year starts July 1st, and the boating season obviously starts well before July 1st. And both the police department and the Harbor Commission feel that we would be best served to bring this new hire on board as early as the new boating season as possible. I agree, and I respectfully request approval to expend funds necessary. Right now, my estimate is about $7,234 from the town's contingency account to cover the payroll expense anticipated for filling the position in the beginning of May prior to the start of the next fiscal year. Right now, there's more than enough funds. There's about $22,000 in the contingency account. So I request the approval to do so.
Thank you, Mr. Rayner. Ms. Brown?
Before we jump into that, I just want to make sure I have turned in 2 CVs from people who are already ready to apply for the job.
Oh.
And I want to make sure that they're considered because they're both very qualified. So other than that, I'm all for it.
Well,
That's over there.
yeah, that's, we're just here to approve.
We don't do any hiring.
and
Okay, I
approve the
just don't
funding.
know where those
Yeah.
CVs went, so I want
Oh.
to make sure.
I bet they're sitting in Ms. Lisa's.
They've been turned into
Okay.
the town and they're sitting with the HR director, but this will obviously have to be posted.
This has to be done first.
Right.
We've got to
Approve it.
approve this request to get the ball rolling.
I would make a motion that, if you don't mind, that.
Well, I got a question.
Sure, we'll do it for discussion.
Well, during some discussion, I don't want to be petty about this, but during the discussion of the Harbor Commission, I recall we had something like $140,000 in reserve at the Harbor Commission. That's a recollection. I mean, it may not be accurate.
It's not accurate.
How much is the reserve right now that you hold?
It's not a reserve, it's a boat and motor fund. It's about $34,000.
Okay. So you don't believe it would be appropriate to use this money? I just don't like it coming out of.
Well, the
contingency.
problem is, Mr.
Actually-
Levesque, is that we have to use both boats.
I believe I already asked Mr. Rayner this exact question, and he gave me that answer that money was,
Right,
kind of
it's,
reserved.
I mean, 140 sounds familiar, it's probably about 120, but there is money But as the chair of the Harbor Commission stated, that money is a reserve that's set aside for a replacement boat that will be needed in the future someday. So that's what the council voted on. So that money's not for anything
Available.
else.
Or repairs to the current boats.
Or repairs to the current boat, correct?
Okay, one unrelated point, the request that you brought forward about the Secana River Bridge has been put in resolution. It's been up to the legislature and they have put in legislation in order to try to effectuate the preservation of the Stone Bridge.
Open meeting.
Thank you very much.
About something. Okay, I would like to make a motion that we approve not to exceed $8,000. That gives a little bit of wiggle room in case there's extra money to come out of the town contingency. If you need any more money before July 1st than that, then they would have to come back, but $7,234 just seems tight to me.
Second.
It's very precise.
So we have a
Second.
motion and a second. Yeah.
And just a quick comment. I mean, budgets are so funny, but that obviously makes so much sense. You don't put somebody in the water in July. I mean, you put them in the water in May.
Right.
I mean, so it just, but it's
On the water.
difficult. We
On
have
the
to-
Not in the water, on the water.
What's that?
Probably on the water,
On the
not
water,
in the
yeah.
water.
Well, if they gotta check the moorings, they might have to go.
There we
All right.
go. You know, this guy doesn't know anything about the water.
Not at all.
So we have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes
Thank
6 to
Thank you,
0.
Mr.
Thanks,
For
everyone.
sure.
Okay, now new business number 5. It's discuss the possibility for communication consultant. Ms. Levesque.
Before you, I believe is
Just a little bit. There
actually
we go.
a document that I retrieved from my old stomping ground in the city of New Orleans, which is a request for proposal for assistance in, I'm gonna just say public relations. Through most of the public hearings, it was apparent to me that there was a real division between what the town felt it was putting out and what the people felt they were hearing. And I don't think it was necessarily deliberate misinterpretation or whatever. I just think that for one reason or another, public communication is a skill. And I actually think the town of Portsmouth does it very, very well. But it is nonetheless a skill. And the idea of this was to have somebody assist us, both for one, in the communication. We put things out to the newspapers. We put things out, I think, a little bit on the web, on the social medias. But perhaps, I mean, I had a very good friend, Bobby Sable, show up at one of the meetings and said he had never heard of it. And he's a fellow, he's an attorney, he's a fellow who normally is pretty on top of things. And it bothered me that he had not heard, this was the transfer station, anything about it to that point. So this is pure concept, but it is an idea I'd like to ask people to consider. That is that we try to obtain the service of somebody who will assist us in getting the information that we want out, not the message, the information. This is what the town is doing. And I think that it is a good idea, seeing as we're not going to have a full-time person on staff, which I think probably every $70 million outfit in this country has, that, you know, I don't know that I want the administrator. I don't know if I want the planner spending a lot of time trying to communicate these things when it might be easier if we had somebody come in, this is what you want to do. Put this out this way, and you won't necessarily have all the conversation. So, I certainly don't anticipate anybody's going to be voting for this particular agreement because, as I said, it was bowlerized and it's not actually changed at all. It's 140 grand, and I don't think that would be anything about what we're looking for. But as an idea, I'd like to actually just hear if anybody's interested in me pursuing this in some fashion to obtain the service of somebody in the area. I think of $40,000 or $50,000 who would assist the town in making sure that the information the town has is properly presented to our clients, customers, the citizens so that they know, as much as we can possibly let them know about what's going on. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Lebec. Comments, questions from counselors?
I could not see spending $50,000 to, I mean, if somebody didn't know there was something going on with the transfer station, they weren't reading the 40,000 signs that were on the side of the roads, or the 6 or 7 articles that were in the Portsmouth Times, or the, I don't know, 30,000 comments that were made on the Facebook page.
Did you think all of those were accurate?
Accuracy is different than getting out a message. So what you just stated, that you wanted to get the information out so that people are aware that something's going on, not getting out facts or.
Well, the hope was it would be accurate information.
Well, or, yeah, but I wouldn't want to spend money having somebody checking facts and arguing with people online. That seems like a waste of funds for the town. I could think of 1,000 different things that would be better. I'd rather take, if you're gonna give $50,000 to a consultant, I'd rather give the $1,000 back to the wildlife rehab. Oh, you left.
I would say.
I think we do a very good job of getting our information out. I think there is an undercurrent of people who just want to disagree with us just to disagree with us, and they're always going to disagree. It's just the way it is. It's the nature of politics. And we could say it 10 different ways, and one of them might be the exact way they would say it, but they would still disagree with us. You've been around long enough. It's politics. It is what it is. You could say that we're gonna give every resident $1,000 next year. And somebody would find a way to disagree with that.
We're not gonna.
We're not.
We're not gonna do that. Just to,
Yeah.
for the record.
Town administrators are scratching their chest to get up.
We're not, but, no, I,
So if I
Yeah,
may,
go
so the information is developed for public dissemination, developed from several offices around in town administration, not just one, so it's a bit distributed, which is fine. My biggest complaint when I want to find information has to do with the technology services that we have supporting it, and that is to say, the website. It is not intuitive. It's a product that we purchase, so it's not highly. You know, we pay a certain amount of money, we get what we get. If we wanted something more, we'd have to pay more. If we want to revise it, we have to pay for that. Search features are sometimes very useful, sometimes not. And so, with all respect, I don't discount the value of a communications professional. But if we're going to be sinking more money into improving information dissemination, I'd like to see it spent on improving what they're going to go to portsmouth.com, they'll get redirected portsmouth.gov. And if it's hard to find things from there, that might be more fixable in a long-term plan than the comms consultant.
Can I just, and I don't disagree. But the administrator, the planner, the public works, the chief, I mean, they're all involved any particular time of the day to try to inform people of what's going on. Okay, that's not the particular skill set that they brought to the job necessarily. And even on the website, there are press releases. And by the way, I meant no criticism. I certainly didn't. I believe that I agree with you, Councilor Hamilton, perfectly, totally. I believe the information has been given out in a straightforward manner, but nonetheless, there were a lot of people saying they didn't hear it, they didn't get it, and they didn't agree, and some thought we were actually deliberately misreporting things. But I don't disagree with you, but it is kind of, to me, part of the concept is that we have people of ability, but they are distracted to do things that are necessarily their bailiwick. But they do them well, no emergency, no fire. So I just thought I'd bring it up.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Levesque. I do want to just add a couple of points here and I think you bring up very good points and I think what we have to do is, and it only comes up a couple of times, and there were a couple of contentious issues, and that seemed to be what the focus was. Most of the time, the information gets out there. These couple of items that were on the agendas definitely got out of control. And there was a lot of maybe misinformation or mixed information, however we want to perceive it. So I think what we have to do is identify certain, we're all going to know when there's a contentious topic. And we probably need to make sure, whether it's a combination of the information that we're putting out there, the website, I think we probably can look into some things. It's not the first time we've heard that, the website is hard to navigate. Maybe we could look at a few things and just, there's only so much we can do from a public information standpoint. I mean, we have to put the information out there. There's certain requirements, notification, all that stuff. So, I think maybe we could, maybe just spend a little bit more time when we know it's going to be something that's kind of a contentious one. Anticipate things a little bit more, making sure we reserve a larger auditorium when necessary. And again, we're not trying to hide the information, but sometimes, the cycle comes quicker than you expected and stuff is, could always use a second look. So I think moving forward, we could always look to improve. And one of the things might be just looking at the technology that we have and identifying any limitations and look for things that we can do to improve it. And there might be some other folks in-house that might be able to help with this. We might have some folks that might be good at this. Maybe we should look inside, see if there's anybody available before we go out external.
I'd like to make one last point.
Sure.
One of the people who has been most accurate, even when relaying information I was positive he did not agree with, was Mr. Hamilton. I've watched you, and he has a certain amount of cred with the people, so he will write something. And even though I know he doesn't agree with that, but he has done a good job of telling people, no, we didn't steal the money. I've got it. No, I don't think you ever said that one, but
Nope.
So I really always appreciate it when I see your name. I always figure you're gonna be straight.
So is there a motion coming here to make Mr. Hamilton our PR guy? Is that what I'm hearing?
New.
He'll be the new town crier.
This is our chance. It could be 5-1.
We could put some money in for a
No.
bell.
This was good discussion, but I think the takeaway is there's always room for improvement in making sure that we're getting the information out in a timely manner and in an accurate. I mean, there's mistakes happen, but just trying to get the information out there is can be challenging at times, and we do a good job. Mr. Gleason.
Just a couple of points I'd like to make. I think if you added another person in the mix here, that person would still be relying on the different departments to actually still have to do their job. I mean, Ms. Hitchens recently put out a notice about the zoning board and the planning board getting together. She has all that information. Why relay that to another person that really doesn't know anything about it? We have that happening with the fire and police already. So that's the way I look at it. The big meetings, we get caught with some people that said, yeah, we've seen where the town said X, Y, Z, and you're not admitting to it. We need to know all the facts for those big meetings. So that's communication within, and presenting all the information that we have up front. I believe in the transparency. I'm all 100% with you there.
Okay. All right. So I don't think any action is warranted, but it was good discussion, and I think there's a takeaway, and we'll look to improve. Next item is correspondence.
Mr. President, I would like to receive and place on file items 1, 3, and 4. And I would like to pull item number 2 for consideration and passage for the next meeting. It is a potential expansion of the Energy Facilities Siting Board and also gives the towns where significant energy projects are going to be taking place a little bit more say in the process. So specifically for me, I'm looking at this in terms of Old Mill Lane. We have been delayed by Rhode Island Energy. I would like to see that if something does get passed, I would like to be able to be supportive of getting more information to our people.
The motion is to receive and place on file 1, 3, and 4, and 2, bring forward to the next council agenda.
Yes, sir.
You would be
I
looking.
would second that.
You would be looking to create a resolution similar to Burrillville's in support of the legislation.
Take out Burrowville and stick in Portsmouth. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
All right, so we
Yeah,
have,
no, it's reasonable.
we have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0. Next, we have future meetings, March 11th, March 25th, and April 8th, all 7 PM in Town Council Chambers.
Mr. President, it's not a future meeting, but I just wanted to note, on March 7th is Founder's Day. And the clerk can correct me, but I believe the compact will be here for public.
The
view.
compact will be here from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. on the 7th of March. We will also show our copy of the Declaration of Independence. The Secretary of State will be attending. Mr. Garman will also be giving comments.
Historical.
Exactly.
Thank you. Just wanted to note that.
Thank you, Ms. Kaplan. Okay,
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0. Thank you all, and we'll see some of you on March 7th.
Thank you.